So there's a difference between staking tokens on a blockchain as part of consensus and staking tokens in an application, such as a DeFi application on Ethereum. So the big difference is when you stake on a blockchain, you actually stake coins, if you like, rather than application tokens. You're actually participating in consensus. So you're securing the network, you're securing the blockchain, and you're validating transactions, either directly by having your own node or by delegating your tokens to a validator in a node to confirm those transactions. So I don't know if you know about how Bitcoin is mined and how that works for confirming blocks. Are you familiar with that?
Bitcoin, not exactly, because Bitcoin, what is Bitcoin's proof of
It's proof of work, yeah.
work, and I know that's probably the worst one. I know the proof of what is it?
Proof of stake is the other one.
Yeah, there's proof of stake, then there's proof
Yeah.
of authority that I've seen on a couple of new chains, and there's like
Yeah.
another proof, but I'm still learning all that.
No, me too. I mean, there's always new sort of innovations, and I don't know much about proof of authority as such. I know proof of stake and proof of work, and just to keep it simple, with chains, with actual blockchains, not the applications, you have to validate the transactions on the chain because a blockchain is just a database, right?
Right.
So the Bitcoin blockchain is a constantly updated database of transactions between Bitcoin holders, essentially buyers and sellers trading. And when a new block's mined, which is where you get Bitcoin mining, the transactions are put on that new block as well that took place in that 10-minute period that the block is created in. And these validators, if you like, the Bitcoin miners in this case, will add those transactions and validate they're correct. And then all the other Bitcoin users will make sure those transactions are added correctly and nothing's wrong. It's exactly the same with proof of stake, but the way in which you reach that consensus that everyone or all the transactions are correct is slightly different.
Yeah, it's because it's not. There's no mining,
Yeah.
right? It's securing nodes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So mining's just like a term that's sort of easy to understand. It's kind of more like you solve a cryptographic equation, which is done by your computer or your GPU, uses a lot of processing power. Proof of stake is just validators doing the same thing, but it's a lot easier to validate.
Mm-hmm.
But you put your tokens on the line. So if you validate incorrectly, you lose your tokens, basically. So it prevents people cheating
Yeah.
and putting fake transactions up. So when you're staking your tokens, what you're essentially doing is participating in that process of validators confirming transactions and adding them to the blocks.
Right.
And you're either doing that directly with your own validator or your own node, let's say, or you're doing it indirectly, as is the case with delegated proof of stake, where you're staking your tokens and delegating those to a validator who will then use them to basically validate and secure
And that
transactions.
would be called, that's a staking pool, right? Because a lot of people pull together, and that goes to the validator to continue to give them interest back off of what the pool runners earning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you've got validators or pools. They're very similar. I mean, the terms are probably interchangeable in some way. There's probably some slight technical
Yeah.
differences. As there always is. But yeah, exactly. Whereas, when you're using like an application like Uniswap on Ethereum, or you're using some sort of application on a blockchain rather than just directly using that blockchain, um, you have staking in the same sense where you lock up tokens and you earn rewards. Because that's the whole thing, really, with proof of stake on blockchains, is you earn rewards for validating blocks.
Right.
It's the same with applications in the sense that you earn rewards for staking your tokens, but there's no blocks to be confirmed. Really all you're doing is participating in governance, which means those tokens give you the right to vote on proposals to upgrade the application. There's no consensus being done by those stake tokens, and that's the sort of major difference
Yeah.
really
So
between
you
the
so
two.
you're staking those for the governance and getting rewarded for being a part of the governance versus
Yeah.
staking to secure the nodes. That's
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Gotcha.
It's a big difference in terms of the way the blockchain or the application is sort of run. They're very different.
Yeah, yeah. That brings me to the DeFi world. I've been diving into the DeFi world, and the DeFi loans. Like some of these programs, and I've got a list of, I don't know if it programs, dApps, whatever, because some of them are centralized, some of them are decentralized. Block DeFi is probably the most popular one, I would imagine. And you can take a loan out on your crypto up to 60% with them. Now,
Okay. Yeah.
do you like the DeFi loan option better than our traditional loan options?
Um, yeah. What I like about DeFi loans is you're not trusting anyone. Basically, as a lender or a borrower, you can do it permissionlessly. You don't have to trust anyone to maybe secure that capital to make sure they have it. And also, you don't have to get approval for the loan as long as you have, say, X amount of
Yeah,
collateral
no credit
or of
checks or
money.
anything from what I
Yeah,
saw.
yeah, yeah, exactly. No KYC, and you can just sort of permissionlessly borrow. And then, of course, if you have to pay it back, it gets paid back. The thing is, like with these sort of decentralized one, you can get sort of liquidated, can't you? If your collateral, the money you're borrowing against, becomes too low,
Yeah.
you automatically get
Yeah,
liquidated
that's the
and
smart
you pay the
contract
money
from what
back.
I saw. Like the decentralized one, if the smart contract, as soon as that number gets hit, it's going to enact. There's no calling the bank or anybody to talk to. You're getting liquidated. There's no questions about it. You can't
Yeah.
call a helpline afterwards and be like, hey. So I guess if you're borrowing against a crypto, you want it to be a crypto that's going up in price because every time it starts to drop, you're probably going to keep adding more in there to keep from hitting that smart contract number.
Yeah, I mean it's better to borrow, isn't it, after like a crash in price
Yeah.
when it's unlikely to go much lower. So there's different risks, because with the centralized ones, I'm not sure if it works exactly the same in sense of the crypto centralized lending platforms, but in traditional banking, it's very different, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You have a chance to kind of either adjust the rate at which you pay back the debt, or it gets reevaluated. But you can still lose your house, like with a mortgage. That's an example
Mm-hmm.
where you can still sort of lose the house if you can't afford to keep payments up.
Yep.
But
Yeah, it's not much different from that side of the aisle. But the one thing that excites me about it is where the banks usually get to be the ones loaning out the money and gaining those interest payments. With a decentralized, you can do that. So you have the option to borrow against your crypto, or you can lend out your crypto.
definitely, and actually, that's a really good point. As someone who wants to get involved with lending money out, I think it's amazing. I think that's probably the best thing with decentralized finance, with the lending. Maybe some other areas, I can't think off the top of my head, but definitely with the decentralized lending, it's great, and you're going to get your money, because these people will get liquidated if uh, their collateral is not enough. So there's not that much risk of losing a lot of money outside of the
Secure,
protocols or apps,
yeah,
having
security breach
problems.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, or price, goes down so quickly that the liquidation takes too long, and then it causes an issue, because it basically liquidates your position too low, and then there's money left outstanding. But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing that anyone can participate in lending. You don't have to be a regulated entity. You don't have to be someone with loads of money.
No, you can just
It's all, yeah,
loan $100 out if you want of some type of crypto and gain interest on that. What do you
yeah. I think
what
it's
do you like better? Do you like lending the cryptos out for that interest or staking for interest? Or there's some apps like Voyager where you don't even stake it; you just hold it in your account and gain interest. That's where I've got my Cardano right now. Is just sitting in Voyager gaining 5.5%, and there's not really any risk to it because it's not being staked; it's just being held.
Yeah, because I wonder they probably stake it in the background, but they kind of take away that technical barrier, right? And maybe some of the risk because they should know what they're doing theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's nice for some people to stake through exchanges or to an interest through exchanges, whether that's because the exchange stakes the asset or lends it out. Um, I really like that, first of all. So, things like Voyager are great, they're necessary. I like staking. I like staking because it is a little safer. It's a little easier to do, and I haven't explored that much into lending and borrowing myself. So obviously, I'm a lot more comfortable with staking, and I think it's easier to do than, for example, lending and borrowing or Another one is providing liquidity, which is very similar to how you lend some money out,
Yeah.
except for you're basically temporarily lending it to an exchange, like a decentralized exchange,
Yeah.
to
In that
use in terms of
Compound one
liquidity.
that does that, or am I thinking of maybe it's AAVE? One of those two.
Yeah, they're lending and borrowing. I'm not sure if they might have some other things you can do. But I just mean, for example, on Uniswap or another decentralized exchange, you can basically have something like US dollar tether or US dollar coin, and then you can have an asset it's traded against, like the comp token or the uni token, and then you can provide both of those tokens to the exchange as liquidity for the trading pools.
Yeah.
So it helps with people, buying and selling. It literally is just you providing liquidity for a trading pair. And I don't know the technicals how it works, but it's the same way that a market maker works in a centralized exchange. It's the exact same process pretty much, but on a decentralized exchange where anyone provides liquidity, and then the market maker, uh, part of the application, sort of does it all. I don't know how it works, to be honest, but I know
Okay.
that there's no sort of lending and borrowing involved. It's just providing liquidity to an asset pair.
What I've ran into with a lot of staking is if you're staking directly with the chain, you've got to buy whatever you're going to stake with that chain, which is going to cost gas fees, and then it's going to cost gas fees to stake it. So how are you getting around that? Are you just not just paying it and saying whatever? Or?
Gas fees are really a problem on Ethereum.
Yeah.
Ethereum's so congested. So, yeah, of course, if you're staking certain assets on Ethereum as well, in terms of the governance for applications, then yeah, it's going to cost a bit. It's quite cheap at the moment, though, for in terms of Ethereum anyway, which is about $7 per transaction. Still quite high, but
Yeah.
you only have to do that once with staking, so it's not too bad. And then when you come to unstake, you then pay a second transaction. So I think it's fine. Also, on chains that aren't Ethereum, the transaction fees are minimal. I mean, we're talking pennies. So
On what
uh,
was that now?
on other exchanges, other chains, sorry, not exchanges. So, for example, if you use the Cardano staking function on Cardano, I imagine it's quite cheap to actually do the transaction.
Okay.
I use Cosmos-based chains at the moment quite a bit because I'm quite into the Cosmos ecosystem. So quite recently, I staked persistence, right?
Hmm.
You get 30% staking rewards, even 35% in some cases
Wow.
per year. It's really good, of course, and um, that's why I stake there.
Yeah.
Normally I keep some capital spare so I can sell quickly if I need. But when the staking rewards are that high, it makes more sense to stake all of it. Otherwise, you're not getting as much as you
Yeah.
can. But long story short, though, anyway, essentially the transaction was about 5 cents,
Huh.
because the persistence blockchain is proof of stake, first of all, rather than proof of work
So
like Ethereum,
yeah.
Bitcoin. But yeah, less transactions on the chain, more scalable, essentially. Long story short, so less fees.
I thought I was doing good with my StormX at 12.5%, but you're getting 30% on persistence. I might have to look into persistence.
I could give you quite a few that do like high returns, and I guess with StormX though, is that on their token or is it on the stable coins?
It's on their token, the StormX token. So you
Oh, okay.
so you can use MetaMask or Trust Wallet to interact with the StormX app. And basically the StormX app is there's some ways you can earn free crypto for like trying out different video game apps like Mafia City or whatever. And then they also do crypto back rewards on a bunch of stores like eBay, other stuff like that. But they have a tier system as far as how many coins you hold, how much crypto back you get, and they're going to be coming out with their debit or their credit card here soon that you don't have to sell your cryptos or whatever. There's a lot of good stuff I see coming out of StormX. It's very cheap too. It's only like 2 cents right now. It was a penny the other day. But there's other ones doing the same thing. Like the incentives I think are great. When I see these projects giving out incentives just to hodl. Like that's all they want you to do is just hodl, and they're paying you to hodl. Like that's great.
Yeah.
Because that's going to lock up more and more tokens or coins, whichever one you're trading, and make that circulating supply a lot lower, which means big buying comes in, you're going to get big price spikes.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what I have started to understand with persistence. 35%. I spoke to their team, and just I guess with StormX the same sort of thing. They're incentivizing long-term
Mm-hmm.
holding of the token. Not just that, but also long-term support of the project. And I think that's great, like you say, from a tokenomics perspective in terms of the total supply staked, but also just from a community aspect. You want a good big community around the project. You want lots of users, and I think it's just really good to do that. So it sounds like StormX, by the way, is building like an ecosystem. They've got a few different products. They're getting the card coming.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the staking. And they must have some other stuff, but obviously I don't know too much about it, but it's kind of the same with persistence, building an ecosystem of different applications, users, community, and of course high amount of the token stake. I think it's about 89% of the circulating supply stake.
Oh wow, yes, that's what I'm talking about. So that supply is super low right now, and
Yeah.
it's going to have to probably shoot up quite a bit before people take their money out of the staking. And then they may not even take it out, because if the price is rising and you're staking, you're going to get more money for the interest. That's the thing with StormX. If StormX goes up to 5 cents again, well, then I'm getting 5 cents for every StormX token that I'm getting a bunch of. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's pretty
It
great.
compounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. If you make 12% a year, and then that extra 12% goes up by 10x or something,
Yeah.
that's 120% you've made that year, basically, from staking. So,
Yeah.
um, sort of tying into what you were saying, right? You said about whether lending's better or staking's better, for example. I think lending and borrowing and also providing liquidity to exchanges, they do give better returns than staking in a lot of cases. And it's because there's added risk,
Hmm.
as there usually is with these kind of things. But I'm pretty sure you get some really nice rewards from some particular projects, and especially new applications that are less tested. Obviously, there's more risk of bugs, but they sort of incentivize people with bigger rewards
Hmm.
yearly. So one exchange that I've sort of been following a little bit is called Osmosis Exchange. It's on the Cosmos ecosystem as
Yeah, I've
well.
heard about
Um,
osmosis, and that's
oh,
a
you have?
crypto exchange.
Yeah, a crypto exchange. It's like a decentralized exchange on the Cosmos ecosystem. So it's a group of blockchains that all run parallel to each other. Long story short, it's all about interoperability. But their exchange is the first decentralized exchange on Cosmos, sorry, and you can trade all the Cosmos-based tokens on there. But the reason I'm bringing it up, we're talking about staking and earning interest and rewards because it's a new exchange. If you're providing liquidity, which means giving tokens to them for the trading pairs, you can earn something like 200, 300, 400% a year at current rates, which are paid out daily, obviously, because it won't stay that high all year. But if you find these new exchanges and you think they're a good bet and they're probably quite secure, you can get some really, really good returns from providing liquidity or lending money out if they're new borrowing
Yeah,
applications.
so it's only the coins on the osmosis platform, though, or the Cosmos. I'm sorry, in the Cosmos ecosystem.
So you have things like the Atom
Right.
token, the Persistence token, XPRT. That one is. I don't know if you've heard of Thor Chain
Yeah,
and
I've,
Rune.
I've heard of Rune and Thorchain. Yep.
Yep, and Luna, Terra
Yep.
Money. That's on there as
Okay.
well. Akash
What's
network,
the fees to exchange on that?
minimal, literally non-existent. I mean, they're all exchanges or chains that don't have as many users as Ethereum, first of all, but less congestion, and they're proof of stake chains. So I actually don't know what the fees are. Like when I do a transaction, it's so low, it's just a number that I don't even, consider
Interesting.
really,
I found
like a couple
something.
of cents.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've been trying out different decentralized exchanges, but they all have these high ass fees, and it's all usually in Ethereum.